Hi everybody. In this video, we'll be looking at the AusGeochem map view user interface and going through some of the key features. Importantly, when it comes to navigating this view, it's a bit like Google Maps. You can click and drag to move around the view. You can zoom in and out by scrolling on your mouse wheel or pinching in and out on your trackpad or device screen. And then you can, as you can see here, you can navigate around just as you would on Google Maps, for example. The other important point I want to raise about this view is that if you ever need help, you can go here and find help on this page, and this overlay will point to some of the key features on the page at any point. Going through those now though, this button here is data packages, and that allows us to control what data packages are shown on the screen at any time. So for example, I could toggle on and off the Australian thermochron data package, and that will now disappear. You can see all the blue dots will go, and I can turn that back on. As a brief reminder about data packages, these are the key places where data contributors can store and upload data and share it with other data contributors. But this is all explained in more detail in the data packages video. The next button down is a filtering option. So at the moment, you can see I've got analyses ticked, and on the right-hand side, I can toggle that further by choosing to show samples that have metadata only, or by showing samples that have uranium lead SIMS analyses attached to them. The next option down, filtering, is rock type. So for example, I could say I only want to see metamorphic rock types on the map. And that's now done by turning off the other rock types, so turn this back on. Another option we have is the sample location. So was it an outcrop or was it a borehole, for example? So all of these red circles are all outcrops, and you can toggle those on and off as well. The final one is a combination filter. So that's using the age. At the moment, we only have uranium lead SIMS ages, but when we have other data models for other systems, you can also filter by those ages. So as a demonstration, let's say I want to look at metamorphic rocks between, say, 1.5 billion and around 3 billion years old. And you can see now the number of dots has reduced dramatically because I've filtered to that age window. You could expand that further if you like, and I'll just put that back to the start and then turn the other rock types on. So it's quite a useful tool when you're interrogating the samples available in this spatial reference frame. So go back to the original view now. The next button down is to do with selecting samples. It's called the multi-select tool. But before we get to that, I'll show you how to interrogate individual samples. So let's start with one of my samples. So I'll go over to Finland where my sample is stored, and I'll just show you what you can do when you click on a single sample. So my sample is here. Now, if I click on that sample, I'll be shown the sample metadata window. And this is where all the key metadata are stored. So we can see the sample type, the rock type. So if I click on this I, that takes us to mindat.org. And that's because of our collaboration with Mindat that we have. And so we use a lithological hierarchy throughout the platform. So any mineral or rock type, you can link directly to this website, which gives the user important information about that. Let us go back to the map now. We also have the key geospatial information, but we also have the IGSN number, which is the International Geosample number. And that's a persistent identifier that's unique to the sample. And that's really important for database interoperability. It's also hyperlinked, which means I can click on it and go through to the IGSN landing page, which is hosted by AusGeochem. Now, IGSNs are explained in more detail in their own video, but here we have all the key information for the IGSN requirements, which has like lat and long, for example, and all the sample information. And we can download the QR code and print it off and stick it to our sample if we wish. So that's that part. Importantly, with sample information, we also store the reference and the people involved. So if there's a publication attached to any one sample, I can click on that link and go straight to the paper that has been published using that sample. And I can also click on the person and find out more about that individual, potentially some of their other work or where they're working now as well. So that's those pieces of information for a single sample in terms of metadata. But if we want to look at analytical data, I might just head back to Australia and show you what you can do with analytical data on the platform, what you can inspect using uranium lead shrimp as an example. So I'll just filter so we can only see uranium lead shrimp ages. And if we zoom in into this sample, for example, and I click on it, what we'll bring up is the sample data again, which we've just explored. You can also see the analytical data. So it was SIMS analysis, here's the age. But importantly, you can also look at analytical plots as well. So for example, we can see Terra-Wasserberg plot here, and that can also be inspected at an individual point level. You can see information for every individual analyses. There are some other plots we can choose from as well, say thorium over uranium versus age, for example. And these plots will be available for different data types as they become available on the platform. Obviously, uranium lead being a starting point here. So that's the two single select options that we have on the platform. Now, just going back to what I was mentioning before about this multi-select tool, this third button down. So how that works is you click on that and you can form a polygon around a number of samples. So I'll make a big square shape here and double click to close that. And then we can see all the samples that I've selected in my area of interest, and they're shown with red squares around them. So if I hover over this one sample, you can see it's got crosshairs on the map to show where it is. We can also look at plots from this information. So we could look at sample information. This is a dashboard where we could look at the location map, which can be downloaded as a image file. We can download the literature for these samples, and we can also download different, sample information plots. Another cool feature is if we've got age data attached to them, you can look at a dashboard for the age information. So we have this kernel density plot, which you can change on the fly by altering the bin size, for example. And again, we can download location maps, references for those, and also sample information. So that's the multi-select tool covered quickly. I'll zoom out slightly. The final button we have in the map view to speak about is the layers, the base layer option. So we can go from satellite, which is the default, to something which is a bit more of a street view, kind of Google Maps like. But potentially quite useful is the geology base map. And this is based on geological maps from different surveys. And as we zoom in to the map, they actually become more finer detailed. So we can see at that point, we've gone from quite a broad scale geology to more focused, localized geology, which is really powerful. So you can compare where the samples are, where the analyses are with their underlying basement geology. So I'll just zoom out again and show you the final two options are a dark and a light contrast mode, which sometimes helps make these circles more visible. And I'll just return to the default mode now. So that's a quick run through the map view, which is one of the key user interfaces on AusGeochem. The other key user interface is My Data, but that will be discussed in a separate video.